By 2050, parts of Jakarta could be completely underwater. Not damaged, not flooded, gone. Miami is spending billions trying to survive the same fate. But quietly, something radical is happening behind the scenes. Governments, engineers, and investors are not just trying to protect cities anymore. They're trying to rebuild them on top of the ocean itself. And if they succeed, it will completely change where and how humans live forever. But there's one question no one can agree on. Is this the future of survival or the most expensive mistake in human history? In Bangladesh, families don't rebuild homes once. They rebuild them again and again, every time the river shifts. In Indonesia, entire neighborhoods are sinking so fast that roads now sit below sea level. And in island nations like the Maldives, the land itself is slowly vanishing from the map. Scientists warn that by 2050, hundreds of millions of people may be displaced, not by war, not by economy, but by rising water. And for the first time in history, some governments are asking a question that sounds unthinkable. What if we stop fighting the ocean and start building on it instead? A floating city is exactly what it sounds like, but not in the way you imagine. This isn't a boat, it isn't a platform. It's an entire city, streets, homes, schools, hospitals, built on engineered structures that float with the ocean instead of resisting it. Some designs rise and fall with the tide. Others are anchored but flexible enough to survive storms stronger than anything traditional cities can handle. And in a few places, this is no longer theory. In the Netherlands, floating neighborhoods already exist. People living on water as a normal part of daily life. In Japan, massive engineering firms are designing ocean megastructures that could one day house tens of thousands. And in the Maldives, entire resort communities have already been built on floating platforms, as early tests for something much bigger. But none of these projects answer the real question yet. Can you actually build a full-scale city this way? Safely, affordably, and permanently? Because floating cities don't just challenge engineering, they challenge economics. We're talking about billions of dollars per city, not for luxury, not for expansion, but for survival infrastructure. And that creates a tension that no one can ignore. Who funds a city that might be necessary, but might also fail completely? Governments see protection, investors see opportunity, but both are gambling on the same unknown outcome. Building on water sounds simple until the ocean pushes back. Waves don't just hit floating cities, they reshape them. Storms don't just pass over them, they test every weak point in real time. So engineers are experimenting with materials that bend instead of break, platforms that distribute weight dynamically, and modular systems that can be rebuilt like floating Lego structures after damage. But even then, the ocean is still stronger than anything we've ever built. Even if the engineering works, there's a deeper question. What is life like in a city that moves with the water? Children growing up where streets float, hospitals that sway during storms, schools connected by bridges that rise and fall every day. And most importantly, what does home mean when the ground beneath you is no longer solid? This is where floating cities stop being an engineering problem and become a human one. Floating cities don't just change architecture, they change society. Who gets to live there? Who controls them? And if cities are built offshore, do they still belong to a country at all? Some planners believe they could become new global hubs, independent, adaptive, and self-sustaining. Others worry they could become gated enclaves for the wealthy, while vulnerable populations are left behind on sinking land. Then there's the risk no one wants to talk about. Storms stronger than expected, systems failing under pressure, entire floating districts needing evacuation at sea. And because these cities are still experimental, there is no historical guarantee they will survive long term. So the question becomes not just, can we build them? But should we trust them with human lives at all? If floating cities succeed, they won't stay isolated experiments. They could reshape coastal megacities like Tokyo, New York, and Jakarta. New districts could expand outward into the ocean instead of inland. Cities could grow without destroying land. But if they fail, they may become remembered as one of the most ambitious and expensive experiments in human history. Floating cities are not about escaping the ocean. They are about learning to live with it. But whether they become humanity's greatest adaptation or a warning about technological overreach depends on decisions being made right now. Because the ocean is rising regardless. The only question left is, are we building fast enough to meet it? If you had the choice, would you live in a city on water? Or does that idea still feel like something we're not ready for? And more importantly, do you think humanity is adapting fast enough to survive what's coming?